I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers fade as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
Welcome back to A Course in Miracles in Practice. We're exploring Lesson 311 today.
And the title is Judge All Things as I Would Have Them Be.
We're also looking at what is the last judgment.
That phrase, the last judgment, it definitely carries a lot of baggage for people.
Oh, absolutely. You hear it and you think fear, maybe punishment, some kind of final test of whether you measure up.
But the Course says the last judgment isn't some future event run by an outside judge.
Instead, it's the point where judgment itself stops. And Lesson 311 gives us the practical side of that. It shows you what this big internal shift looks like day to day.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into the lesson text itself.
Lesson 311, Judge all things as I would have them be. Judgment was made to be a weapon used against the truth.
It separates what it is being used against and sets it off as if it were a thing apart.
And then it makes of it what you would have it be.
It judges what it cannot understand because it cannot see totality and therefore judges falsely.
Let us not use it today, but make a gift of it to him who has a different use for it.
He will relieve us of the agony of all the judgments we have made against ourselves.
They reestablish peace of mind by giving us God's judgment of his Son.
Father, we wait with open mind today.
To hear your judgment of the Son you love.
We do not know him and we cannot judge.
And so we let your love decide what he whom you created as your Son must be.
It's stated so directly there. Judgment itself is the block to peace, not just negative judgment, but all judgment.
The Course calls it a weapon, something deliberately made by the ego to create division, to separate things out.
And the core problem is when we judge, we act like we understand the whole situation, like we have all the facts.
But the lesson points out, we cannot see totality. We only ever see tiny pieces.
So if you only see a piece, how can the judgment possibly be accurate? It's like judging a whole movie based on one single frame, you know?
And not just one frame, but one frame viewed through our own personal biases and filters.
That idea of cannot see totality. Totality means seeing everything, all the causes, effects, connections, the underlying oneness.
Our separate minds, our egos, are basically designed not to see that oneness. So judging is always based on incomplete, skewed data.
And then it says judgment makes the thing what you would have it be. So I see someone act, let's say, abruptly. I judge them as rude.
And in your mind, in your world, you've just created a rude person. Even if they were, I don't know, rushing to a hospital, you've defined them based on your limited view.
That defining process is how the ego stays alive, isn't it? It needs boundaries. It needs to label things as separate to keep the idea of a separate me intact. It's subtle, though. We aren't always consciously condemning people. It can be much quieter.
Like judging a piece of music as uninspired. Seems like just an opinion, right? A matter of taste.
But look underneath. Maybe judging the music makes me feel musically sophisticated, or like I have better taste than the composer or other listeners.
It often comes back to protecting a self-image, reinforcing the idea that I know best, or my perception is the right one.
Which keeps that separation going strong. It builds a wall.
And that's where you see it as a weapon against truth. The truth is oneness. The judgment insists on separation, on difference, on me being right or better.
And the lesson says he will relieve us of the agony of judgments made against ourselves. That's interesting. We think we're judging others, but the suffering comes back to us.
Because we end up believing in the separations we create. We draw lines and then we have to constantly defend those lines, which is exhausting. That's the agony.
The ego needs to judge. It lives on comparison. Good, bad, worthy, unworthy. Without those distinctions, it doesn't have a definition.
Okay, so this leads us to maybe the hardest part of this lesson for many people, positive judgments, the happy ones.
Right, the ones that feel like love or appreciation or connection. How can those be a problem?
The structure of the thought is still based on separation, even if the feeling is warm.
If I think my best friend is the kindest person I know, that feels good. That feels like love.
But the phrase kindest person I know relies on comparison. You're measuring them against others. You're setting them apart as special.
By making them special, I'm still separating them out, defining them based on qualities that others presumably lack.
You're creating a distinction. This person meets my criteria for specialness, others don't. That keeps the whole system of comparison and separation running.
And that specialness is conditional. It depends on them continuing to meet my criteria.
And it creates an unspecial world outside of that judgment. People I'm indifferent to or people I actively exclude because they don't fit the definition.
The ego has no problem with that. Positive judgments reinforce its structure just as much as negative ones. Love this one, ignore that one. It keeps the sorting mechanism going.
But the Course aims for something different. Seeing the inherent light and innocence in everyone equally, without needing to rank or compare. That's the radical request here.
And our minds push back because our whole sense of self, our relationships, our identities are often built on these special distinctions. Who we like, who we trust, who's in and who's out.
So giving up the judgment that someone is the best isn't about loving them less. It's about recognizing that the light you see in them is actually everywhere, in everyone. The specialness was just your own filter focusing on one part of that universal light.
That connects to the idea of special relationships versus holy relationships, doesn't it? Special ones based on exclusion, holy ones based on inclusion.
In a holy relationship, you see the other person's inherent worth, their innocence, just because it is.
Yeah.
Because they are, just like you are.
Okay, so practically speaking, judgment happens fast. It's automatic sometimes.
The moment you notice any assessment forming, negative, positive, doesn't matter. That's the point where you can pause.
And choose to give it up. The lesson says, make a gift of it to him who has a different use for it.
Making a gift of it means you stop trying to manage the thought. You don't wrestle with it, justify it, analyze it, or push it away.
You just notice it. Ah, there's that thought. There's that judgment.
And then you consciously offer it up. It's like saying internally, okay, here's the thought I'm using to create separation right now. I don't actually want the separation or the conflict it brings. Please take it. Show me the truth here instead.
It requires honesty. Admitting, like the prayer says, we do not know him and we cannot judge. Owning that we don't have the full picture.
When you admit you can't see totality, you make space for God's judgment, which isn't judgment in our sense at all. It's just the constant recognition of innocence.
And letting go of trying to be the judge brings instant relief. You shift from being the one carrying the burden of deciding everything to just being peaceful.
And that action, that simple release of one judging thought, is you participating in the last judgment. Right here, right now. You stop judging. You start seeing differently.
We've talked a lot about the theory, but actually releasing a judgment, especially one tied to strong feelings like disappointment or attachment, what does that feel like?
It can feel like a pang of loss for a second, maybe, losing the certainty of the judgment. But then there's often this huge sense of relief. I had an experience like this related to work, actually.
Yeah.
Shows how tricky releasing those happy judgments can be.
Tell us about that. What was the situation and the shift?
Sure. At a job I had a while ago, I became very close with a coworker. Let's call her Mary. We were really tight, leaned on each other for everything at work, shared lunches, studied together for required courses, talked outside of the work too. Real mutual support.
So you formed a judgment. This is a solid, lasting friendship. It goes beyond just being colleagues.
Definitely. I absolutely judged it as a deep, enduring connection. Then I left that job. I stayed in touch with some other people from there, but Mary just dropped off the map, didn't return calls. I sent a birthday text, a holiday card, nothing. Silence. I was floored, confused, hurt, really disappointed.
And the disappointment sounds like it was tied to your judgment about the friendship being wrong.
That's exactly it. The disappointment was so sharp because it hit my own sense of judgment. I started questioning myself. Did I misread everything? Was I not that good a friend? And I was judging her too, of course. How could she be so inconsiderate? She failed the friendship test.
You were caught in what the lesson calls the agony of all the judgments we have made against ourselves. Against both of you, really. The framework you built had crumbled.
It took really sitting with this lesson 311, to see what was actually causing the pain. It wasn't just her lack of contact. It was my attachment to the definition, the judgment I had imposed on our connection. I was upset she wasn't living up to my script for her.
Your peace was tied to her following the rules you'd implicitly set based on your positive judgment.
And realizing that hit me. I couldn't actually be upset with her for not matching my assumption. My positive judgment, my definition of special friendship, was the very thing setting me up for this pain. That was the weapon.
So the release wasn't about making excuses for her silence. It was about seeing the error in your own thinking.
It was letting go of needing to be the one who defines the relationship and its outcome. I just mentally handed over the disappointment, the confusion, the judgment itself. Said, I don't know the truth here. I can't judge her. I can't judge me in this. I released the need to define it.
And the result?
Peace. Instantly. The charge was gone. The need for the relationship to look a certain way just evaporated. I could remember the good times, the connection we shared, without needing it to fit some future expectation I had created. I wasn't holding either of us hostage to my definition anymore. The agony lifted.
That's a perfect illustration of letting go of a happy judgment, the specialness to find real peace.
The affection was still there, in memory, but it wasn't conditional anymore. It didn't depend on her actions meeting my criteria. It just acknowledged the shared experience, the light that was present then, which doesn't depend on return phone calls.
This kind of mental work connects directly to the big picture the course is painting. Releasing one specific judgment affirms there's a reality beyond our limited view.
A reality based on God's judgment of his Son, which, as the lesson says, we receive when we stop trying to impose our own definitions.
And his judgment isn't about assessing value. It's just a constant, unwavering knowing of perfect innocence for everyone.
That knowing is what the Course means by the last judgment. It's the final realization that the separation was illusory, that love was never actually broken or divided. The self we built through judgment wasn't real.
It's remembering what's always been true from God's perspective. His Son, meaning all of us, is innocent, whole, connected.
And if that's true, if innocence is the reality, then there's nothing to defend against, nothing to fight over, nothing to condemn. The ego's entire reason for being disappears when its main tool, judgment, is put down.
The constant sorting into right, wrong, friend, enemy fades out, leaving peace.
And this applies broadly. Think about how we judge belief systems, philosophies, political stances. Labeling one is entirely right and another is entirely wrong is still defining ourselves through separation.
We use the ideology to prop up our own image as being smarter or more moral or on the right side of history. It differentiates us from them.
The lesson asks us to surrender even that filter, to let go of my way as the only right way, and look for the shared reality, the shared innocence underneath all those differing ideas. Every time you consciously choose to hand over a judgment about a friend, an adversary, an idea, even about yourself, you're doing the work of this lesson.
Okay, let's quickly recap the main points from Lesson 311. The Course redefines the last judgment as the internal end of all judging.
We saw that judgment functions as an ego weapon designed for separation, which causes suffering because it's always based on an incomplete picture.
Releasing judgments, both the obviously negative ones and the trickier positive ones, is the practical step toward peace. It means offering up our filters for correction.
And doing this, moment by moment, is how you participate in the last judgment right now. It's choosing to see innocence instead of error.
The ultimate result is recognizing our inherent oneness, that love was never really interrupted, just hidden by our judgments.
It's remembering the truth of our innocence, which God has never forgotten.
And when that happens, the need to divide, defend, and attack just falls away. Peace remains.
Our hope for you today is that every single judgment you notice and release becomes an open door straight to peace, to freedom.
You can always connect with us by email, ACIM@theworldharmonyproject.org, or find us on social media at The World Harmony Project.
Thank you for exploring Lesson 311 with us.
We'll be back tomorrow for Lesson 312.